There hasn't been an easier time to hire than today. You have more tools than ever. You have more platforms than ever. Everyone is still complaining about hiring.
How much of your time is taken up with hiring?
90% of my days. In the first 4 or 5 months, that's all I did. We were in Sheraton lobby at like 1 a.m. after a dinner with the team. I said, look, I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't know where this is gonna go. The world changed like 3 times over. You go from grow, money was cheap, to nobody can raise anymore. I thrive in chaos. I didn't know if I would.
Are you a job displacement vehicle from a recruitment perspective?
The actual displacement is that somebody else that is able to do your job and his job and 3 other jobs at the same time.
Alex, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Appreciate having me. Thank you.
And congratulations on the round. $5 million seed led by Prosus, which is unusual. Generally, they're Series A and beyond. I think Orbi, I think they did their seed back in September, October, I want to say regionally. But maybe tell me a small bit about how that round came together. You hadn't raised since, was it 21, 22? 22. Different world back in 22 into what the world is now. Different company as well in many respects in terms of the mission similar, but company itself, business model maybe has pivoted. Tell me about the round.
So it was a little bit of an unexpected. First of all, we were not planning to raise that much initially. So we started first thinking that, because the first round was a pre-seed for us.
Yes. And
we could have gone directly to Series A now, but we just wanted to follow sort of the nomenclature of naming convention.
Well-trodden path that's there, yes.
So initially we went with the strategy of doing an internal round with internal investors. This is why a few current investors followed on, including Oryx. And Oryx invested 2 times even in this round. They led essentially the starting point of this round.
Nice.
And then when Prosus came in as well, they followed on.
Shout out Yvonne Ali, good friends.
It's the first time I see a DD where if it doesn't pass a pilot with an operating company on a tech side, it doesn't go to the D at all.
I've heard from Nauman at Orbi, that's intense. Yeah.
So we did that with Prosus and different teams in different operating companies outside of this region as well, which was a little bit scary because you never know if you haven't been trying your tech in countries where even the laws could be differently, especially from a labor and HR perspective. You never know how that is going to be perceived, but that went really, really well. They tested it against a couple of other solutions. And then from a relevancy perspective, it came out to be the highest. And that's what built conviction essentially. And then it was more about how do we meet the right amount, not from a ticket perspective, but the right amount of shareholding from Prosus perspective. And hence why we needed to be creative in terms of how we structure things. And then obviously Prosus came in with much larger ticket than we initially talked about. And that's how we found out. But we're super, super happy to have them on board. I think they are a technology first investor where they are very clear with the thesis. And you're absolutely right. They typically do much larger ticket sizes. So I think it was just the right time, the right people, and then having the right technology as well. And it just worked.
Okay, we've skipped ahead. Would you mind describing or giving me the elevator pitch for Qureos? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Perfectly, yes.
Yes, I unfortunately, I have to admit that I struggled with the pronunciation until I realized it was probably like a week. It took me a week of looking at words go, oh, that's very clever. Qureos. Okay, I get it. Anyway, I digress.
In layman's terms, what Qureos does is essentially to help to reduce the time to hire, simple terms. And we've taken a slightly different approach than being a point solution. We've taken an infrastructure or an operating layer approach that allows us to really focus on the top of the funnel first, meaning candidates. So if you think about from a sales perspective, you have a funnel or pipeline. We have the same on internet acquisition. So focusing on the top of the funnel, making sure that we can get deep into the market in terms of access of talent in many different job boards or talent sources. That unlocks a lot. Once you have a huge top of the funnel, it's going to be much easier to find the needle in the haystack. You can, even in the early days, you start manual and then you start automating and then you figure things out. And once you get really automated, then you can find the needle in the haystack very, very quickly. Think of it from a sales perspective. If you are having a CRM, a HubSpot, whatever, you might have, if your sales rep has a huge pipeline, you're going to make target. It's an input output. And that's the thought process here. So that's from one side. And then the other is, yes, we started on SMB being like an immature platform. But then as we matured, we obviously are mid-market sweet spot right now and then going towards enterprise. As we went into mid-market and plus, it's going to be very evident that there will be another system in place. An SAP, an Oracle of the world and so on. So we are not going to be forklifting or exchanging. I mean, we can if the customer wants. That's another integrating and operating layer that we've also established to make sure that we integrate seamlessly with anything. And if you think about it, from a process perspective, recruitment or hiring is one of the top most repeated process in any economy.
Yep.
Every company does it every single time and at scale. I don't have numbers on this, so don't quote me, but
okay.
I would love to get some numbers. I would probably believe that financial transaction is the most, and then hiring is somewhere up there. And we essentially, as Qureos, we sit in the middle of that workflow essentially, and that's the purpose. We're not competing with job boards. We're partnering with them. We integrate with all of them. So that's essentially what we focus on.
Amazing. I want to dig into the product, but we'll leave that maybe until a small bit later, and let's maybe rewind the clock, because what you're describing there is not what Qureos was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
For example, it's changed quite a bit. So I'd love to unpack that. But first, a small bit on your background as well. You were a Cisco alumnus. You were there for quite some time. What leads you to make the jump to Swvl? Can you talk to me about that time?
Yeah, I spent 9 years with Cisco. I joined in a graduate program in Amsterdam for about a year and moved back home to Sweden. That's when I, through some of my mentors that I had from the graduate program, got the opportunity to move from Sweden to Dubai. And I was part of what was then called Global Enterprise, so managing the global large enterprise accounts from a sales perspective. So although I came here in Cisco, where there's an office in every country and large offices, I was still alone because I was reporting globally.
Okay.
So imagine coming in and you're the person that leads now or takes the global accounts from the local team. You're not going to be perceived in a good way.
Yes.
But anyways, I had an amazing time at Cisco. It was what shaped me in many ways and amazing mentors around me. So one of the reasons why I moved to the region was because of mentors. And Cisco office is on a campus in Dubai. It's in a knowledge village.
Yeah.
So every time we went to Starbucks or downstairs, there was students all around us. And because I'm a product of mentorship, I wanted to give back. So I had a few mentees myself. All of them were sick and tired of education or learning more. They wanted to get a job. How do you get a job when you don't have a CV or anything to show for? And I was trying to be the middleman essentially here. And it was very tough. Was successful with a few of them. And then back then, Dubai Future Foundation released an accelerator, like an incubator, and in partnership with different government bodies, KHDA being one of them, and KHDA and the others put together a challenge each. So the challenge then was, how do we help the people transitioning from education into the workforce? Was exactly what was my sort of side passion at that point. Long story short, so applied to that, and was on the side of Cisco and as a passion. So.
Sorry if I can interject, Alex, why was mentorship so important to you in the first place?
I don't know, for me, it's always, first of all, I would not be where I am without specifically 3 people by far. And it's just, I get a different gratification of helping someone, but not helping anyone in that sense. It's someone that actually wants and has that intention from their side. I usually say the people that wants to take the bull by the horn. Yeah. Just show them a couple of doors and then they really go in. I like that. And I was given those opportunities and that's what led me to take those actions at that point. And I guess that's why I never thought Qureos will be anything at that point. It was no Qureos whatsoever. And so long story short, got into the program and it was more about how do we solve that challenge. And that was essentially the V1 or V0.5 of Qureos. How do we help people that just graduated to get to first demonstrate skills and get into jobs? Yeah. Nobody wanted to learn anything new. And then at that point, there was no AI, none of that. So we grew up to about 100 students or graduates, had a partnership with 14 universities at that point, but nobody wanted to hire them. That was the problem.
Makes things difficult.
Makes things difficult. And in this part of the world, I mean, graduate programs are not that
No, they're not. Yeah. That's something I've definitely noticed.
When I joined Cisco in Netherlands, they were taking a new cohort every single year. It was a natural ingestion.
Same in Ireland. I mean, it's an expectation nearly that you just go into a graduate program 2 to 3 years and then you kind of nearly enter the workforce. You make a decision whether you stay on or you're going somewhere else.
It's not the same. It's much harder. So that's when we sort of try to first attack the problem from, okay, let's help them to not upskill, but to demonstrate their skills. So this is where the first version of Qureos was, let them solve certain workplace problem, micro, where they can solve them and prove that they actually can do some of these things.
What did that look like?
So think about a random example. Think about, for example, a micro project being, let's say, if you want to become a product manager. So let's redesign and let's improve the conversion of Amazon's first page or product page, for example. That could be a micro project. And the result is not what matters. The approach is what matters, how you're thinking about it. And then the mentor's role in this is to give some guidance. They would have been certain online sessions for a group. You can also book one-to-one sessions for free. And luckily we had over 100 mentors at one point that were giving, paid forward type of their time to support this team of these people. So we got to a certain level where we got jobs and we matched people that you could only be matched to a job if you complete certain projects and you prove and you get verified sort of skills in that sense. But then we had customers that said, hey, I'm only hiring 2 or 3 of these per year, but I need to hire 100 of these.
Yes.
Essentially, can you help me with this?
So it was further up the food chain as well.
Further up and broader as well. And this is where we knew that we are leaving money on the table, essentially. The mission is still the same, but it's more, how do we fulfill a certain demand and how do we solve this? But then I moved into Swvl.
Yes.
And I joined Swvl.
How was that transition? Because Swvl was hyper growth, wasn't it, at that particular moment?
Yeah, hyper growth. And for me, going from superstructure organization in enterprise, very large ticket sizes and average deals, to now trying to even launch Saudi in transportation during COVID.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But I think I found a different side of myself, that I thrive in chaos. I didn't know if I would, and it was an exploration for myself.
Yes.
And I really liked it. I love the team, the people that I met there. Got me to learn the 0 to 1. I mean, Cisco is probably not 1 to 10, it's probably 100 to 1,000.
Yes.
So it was the other side of the spectrum, and that was invaluable for me, priceless. So for me, when I joined Swvl, I knew that it is time for me to explore the other side of the spectrum, other than corporate.
Yeah.
And I could have either jumped ship to do something, or take a stepping stone to see if it's even for me, essentially. So came out of that really, really with amazing network and friendships and experience. Loved it. But the hardest thing for me when I built the team on the B2B side in Swvl was hiring. We were contracted with almost every recruitment agency. We had subscription everywhere. And still, the only thing I was doing was screening candidates manually, interviewing candidates. 90% of them, more than that, was a no in the first 3 minutes.
How much of your time was taken up with hiring?
90% of my days. In the first 4 or 5 months, that's all I did. And it was, I mean, if I would have had something like Qureos, then 90% of the interviews I took would not have even be energy. No, not at all. This could have been filtered out long before. So this is when I noticed that it's not the tools.
Yeah.
And this is also what, 23, 22, 3, somewhere there. And it's not even a long time ago. But if you look today, there hasn't been an easier time to hire than today.
Yeah.
Hiring is the easiest today. You have more tools than ever.
Yep.
You have more platforms than ever. And the candidate, you can create your CV to be stellar in less than a minute.
Yep.
That means you should be in a good spot. Everyone is still complaining about hiring. So it's very evident that it's not because that there is a shortage of talent. Effort, everybody puts effort, everybody has a good intention. It's so fragmented, essentially. So that was kind of, if you combine how hard it was for us with hiring, finding the right people in Swvl versus how Qureos started, combining these two, this is what led us to essentially double down. And when we had enough candidates in Qureos, when we reached about 500,000, then we knew, okay, now is the time when we sort of flip the page and we start with V1 of the B2B product.
You met your co-founder at Swvl as well, is that correct?
Yes.
How did that relationship come about?
Very organic. So when we joined the B2B side of Swvl, Usama was then a market launcher. So think of a market launcher, the first man, Columbus style, on the ground, going in, figuring out, is this a market that is...
prefer Magellan myself, but yeah, Columbus, yeah, sure.
Is this a market that we want to go into? Yes, no, why not, and so on. And if yes, then he would essentially help to set the foundation. The problem we had is COVID hit, so he got stuck in Saudi for the longest time.
You're kidding?
Yeah, so I met Usama in person after, I don't know how many months, like 7 months. Although we spoke every day.
Wow.
Because of this. So it was a funny dynamics, essentially. So we worked really well together. We launched Saudi, obviously UAE, and then a couple of other GCC countries. And one day, this was after the lockdowns, I went to Saudi to meet the team and meet customers there as well. And Usama, I still remember we were in, I think it was Sheraton lobby at like 1 a.m. after a dinner with the team. And he was like, man, I'm thinking about leaving. So I was asking him, what do you want to do? He's like, I have no idea. Like, let's chat. And then
I have an idea.
we spent the next 3 hours until 4 a.m. in the morning in that lobby, explaining to him this and telling him, and this was kind of still in that V1 of Qureos. And I said, look, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know where this is going to go. We haven't even raised money at all. And it's been on a slow burner on the side. So what do you think? And he's like, give me 48 hours to think about it. And that's it.
What's the biggest takeaway or lesson that you learned from that time at Swvl?
Good one. There's many. But I think what I saw in Swvl was how well you can I'm going to tell you something that was, wow, an epiphany for me. How well you can execute, even if you have ambiguity and not enough data points. That you really go at speed. As long as it's reversible, go for it. That is something that doesn't happen in corporate. I remember I'm coming from a type of culture where it's, oh, let's talk about it next week.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, but I'm off next week. Okay, let's schedule in 3 weeks.
Loop back on that one.
So, and then I go to Swvl, where we do things today. And there's no next week. It's unless it's Friday at 7 p.m., then it's next week. But it's the next day. And I love that.
Is there any example in particular of something that you worked on that sticks out to you to that end?
Everything was like that, literally. Speed, and because it was in that high growth. But the thing that I've probably learned the most, what to make sure to have the right foundation is when you scale, like really scale, make sure that the ground you're standing on is really solid. So that the things that works at X scale, when you go to the next phase, it also holds up. Because growing from 1 million to 3 million is a certain structure and process. But growing from 3 to 10 million requires a reverse structure and different foundation. I'm not saying that things didn't work out in Swvl, but it was evident that what we thought would work later suddenly didn't work. Essentially.
Yeah, look, it was a combination of many different things, and market timing obviously wasn't ideal as well. Were you responsible for the sales side of things at Swvl? No, or partnerships?
From a title perspective, in startups it's always like that. From a title, yes, it looks
very
like
nebulous and vague. Yes.
Even incorporation of a company in Saudi came under me, and even legal, and then the HR governance side in that country came under me, of course, with help from other team members. But it was really to help to structure the B2B side, the tasks, and whatever was the obstacle ahead of us, let's deal with it. I didn't care about title.
Okay, no, that's understandable. What was the sales cycle like at Swvl? Yeah, like what was the sales motion in terms of when you're in that hyper growth phase? Like, are the KPIs just ridiculous? Like, do you have to strive for unrealism?
I think in any startup you have to do that. The sales process, I would say, and even Persona was one that I was never used to. From going and speaking to IT, where everything is very documented, and to now speaking with customers that needs to move 2,000 people at 8 a.m. and they can be late by a minute, and then you have to make sure that operations aligns to that. And then making sure that suppliers that owns the fleet essentially has the right incentives to make sure that they don't drop the ball. It's not really just sales. It's a lot of operation and alignment. And I realized that success to sales in Swvl and such businesses is backwards from the supplier side, not the customer. If you can control the supplier and the operations from pricing, but also operations perspective, you will win deals much faster.
Okay, that's my Swvl digression. I'm just always curious in terms of speaking to people about it. Okay, you're gone full time now. I'm curious. What are the first steps? What does this look like? You said you hadn't raised funding. You've Usama on board now. Where do you go from here?
Well, the world changed. I think in that year, this was second half, or more or less second half of 22. The world changed like 3 times over.
Yes.
You go from grow, money was cheap, to nobody can raise anymore, and you have to think about bottom line, and then wait, but you cannot only think about bottom line, because then you won't grow as much.
Was that a crazy environment to start a startup?
For me, I couldn't even navigate it. I didn't know, and I was first time founder, didn't understand. I mean, I just raised, how do I even manage investors' expectations? And everyone thinks differently. That year was really for me to navigate, to understand, and that's a mistake we did, do we care so much about all the inputs we get from all angles? Yes, we should, but we should definitely go backwards from a plan that we have, and don't let that influence us too much, all the external opinions. And we got very good investors that told us the truth and the ugly behind the market, and what we should and should not do. So it was really a year for us to really, first of all, learn a lot, because we were very early. So our first mission was, let's fail, and let's fail fast. It's much easier to know what not to do than to know what to do. And that's what we did a lot. But our main focus was really to grow the talent side first.
Internally, in terms of the team itself?
No,
in terms of the actual
supply side. And because we know that whenever we're going to get more jobs in and demand, if we don't have enough talent, so then we need to be able to find talent. And we were not integrated at all yet at that point. So that was the main focus. How do we get them? And that's the mentors. The better pedigree we got on the mentors, the more talent we could get. We got projects from different businesses, Amazon and the likes, and that was great. And that would pull in people. We didn't have money to spend on performance marketing. We never did. So it was just focused on navigating this whirlwind of macroeconomics that is happening worldwide at that point, and then grow the supply side.
How did you grow the supply side?
A lot of growth hacks.
Is this just pulling up the sleeves and trying every which way that you can?
I mean, we knew a few things for sure, and that is, depends on what type of talent. But if we look at from either people that are in the last year of university and then plus, because we were focusing on that early in career.
Yeah.
From that point until 2-3 years of experience.
Yeah, there's a phrase I've often seen is like learn to earn. Something that kept cropping
So we
up.
had even that model where we were able to, when you did activities on the platform, you would get these tokens or not tokens, but credits.
Yeah.
And you could cash them out essentially. But we knew that all of these people eventually want to get a job, and to get a job, you need to potentially prove yourself in one way or another. This is what the recruitment process is about today even. So we played on that, and we tried to get either different internship, apprenticeships. We partnered with DP World very early, was one of the first corporate partnerships, and they have a program for early in career, which is called Tumohi. Through that, we were able to get placement spots at, I think, about 30 different companies that they work with, like Maersk, Siemens, and so on and so forth. So that had a lot of pull, and that was one. And then with that one, we were able to do more of that sort. But it was always backwards from demand in terms of jobs, trying to see what is needed to get this job. And then we pull in the magnets, so to speak. It could be a mentorship, it could be different projects that they can work on micro on the platform, and then we pull them in.
And how does Qureos then evolve over time?
The market essentially saying that I want to hire other people. Simple as that. That is, and also we also realized that when we start monetizing, and we did monetize even on the B2C side as well, it's gonna be a lot more sustainable to monetize on the B2B side from a margin perspective, from a building a sustainable business.
Stickier as well.
But stickier as well, of course. But also, if you think about, I mean, if you're gonna monetize or have candidates pay for XYZ, there is a paradox essentially here. The better we are at placing people, the faster they're gonna churn.
This is true.
So that's not good for us.
It's the problem with EdTech, isn't it? In many respects, and that eventually you graduate.
So once we saw this in numbers, we're like, okay, let's remove the gateway, because once we remove the gateway, we're gonna get even more candidates. And we saw that we removed the gateway, and then obviously it's much better to focus on the B2B side. But then we needed to also be ready for the B2B side, not just from a tech perspective, but also from candidates and data, because we are big on data, and the type of insights that we have is thankfully for that first phase of Qureos that we were able to achieve.
Do you think you should have met that pivot more into the B2B side quicker in retrospect?
I mean, you always can be...
Of course, hindsight is 2020, of course, but...
Yeah, I think obviously pivot should always be... when I look at pivot, I'm not ashamed of a pivot, but I always look at them in a slightly different way. If you can reuse majority of what you're pivoting from into the new direction, for me, that's just a natural evolution, rather. So that was the case for us, essentially. We just monetize differently, essentially. Of course, there's a lot of changes in that, and in go-to-market changes a lot.
Of course.
But we could use everything that we had before. We scrapped some code for our B2C side of things. Yes.
You're not ripping up the entire thing and starting from scratch.
Exactly.
You already have the
We
core.
just had to comment out a few modules, and the same B2C platform or candidate platform is still live today from that first version. So for us, it was a good pivot. It was needed. Could have done it earlier, yes, of course. But then I don't know, would 200,000 candidates be okay versus 500,000?
That's a good point.
I don't know today.
I'd imagine AI changes everything.
Yeah.
Tell me about your first experimentations with, I don't know, whether it be OpenAI or Anthropic, etc. What that looked like when you first realized, okay, we need to rethink things here and how we can best incorporate this.
So the absolute first time when we saw a huge optimization, I would say, was, so these projects that I was talking about, the way we were creating them was literally working with someone from a big company, let's say someone from Cisco, that is in that role already. And we would create these projects backwards from a problem statement that they might have in their daily work. That means we have a program manager on our side that is dealing with a mentor, meeting week in, week out for a few weeks, and creating a series of these projects. Takes a ton of time.
Inefficient.
Imagine when AI came in and you could do this in a couple of minutes. Wow. That was wow. Now we can really scale this up. So that was the first time. But remember, the purpose of us doing these projects and mentorship was really guidance and demonstration of skills. We can do that with AI.
This is true.
So this means we don't need the mentor. And also another data point we got, if we looked at all the mentorship sessions that were conducted, 80+% were questions that a mentor could have answered in writing. Hey, how should I think about this role? Yeah. It was guidance. It wasn't really in-depth mentorship, essentially. So even in the early days of AI would have done that much better. And it was perfect. I think I'm going to take back what I answered earlier.
Go for it.
I did the pivot at the right time because it was...
I agree. From the outside, at least, it seems really well timed.
Unintentionally, it was at the time when AI came, and then perfectly aligned for us to be able to do still the stuff we were doing on the B2C side, but now with tech fully, essentially. So now when you got me to think about it... So this is the starting point of things, and now we do so much with it. But we've enabled it. We've enabled the platforms. It was always AI native because AI came at the point when we pivoted and we were starting to build out the B2B. So we built it from a blank paper with the view that, okay, it's not just about taking a segment of the process and make it faster. It's not about driving faster. I usually use analogies of cars here. But it's more about how do we make sure that it has a time to value that is short. And it needs to be so simple. Simple, because the persona that we are dealing with, HR, are usually not tech savvy. They've done the same thing for the last 15, 20 years. Yeah. So there's an unlearning and relearning. So simplicity was the key here. And we needed to make sure that AI is just naturally part of that, not just a completely new way of doing things.
Yes.
And so we did a lot of experimentation, we thought a chatbot like ChatGPT is going to change the game. Oh, no, it didn't at all.
Really?
No, because in the end, there's a matching that needs to happen in the backend. Now, if you ask someone to put in their criteria, and if you tell them, can you put in industry, you're going to see in the industry input skills. So, of course, you can improve that with product, but it needed to be more, even simpler than that. You can't just rely on people saying what they want. And then suddenly the platform is going to know what you meant.
Yes.
And what we say when we mean is usually not the same. So that's why Chatbot alone, standalone, didn't work fully. And we had to evolve. And now it's just embedded into the platform in a way that it feels naturally, and the platform is very modular. Okay. That is like Lego. So my process looks in a certain way, then I can module the platform in that way as well.
Okay, so it's recognizable to what I suppose the stakeholders responsible for recruitment internally would have been used to in many respects, but you're kind of supercharging it with...
Yes, supercharging it with AI, but also with the gap that came in as a problem for us. So this region, for example, is quite unique. I'm from Sweden, so this is even illegal to do. But hiring based on nationality, based on gender, forget about it in Europe.
Oh, yeah, you best believe.
Yeah. But here you have to even make quota to not get a penalty, for example, whether it's amortization, subsidization, and so on. And if you're now a company and you're looking to source candidates, where are you most likely going to source from? A job board of the world. Some of the global ones don't even allow this. Data points. Yeah. Some CVs that come don't even have those data points. So we face this problem. So how do we solve it? Using AI, we built a prediction engine that now can predict, for example, the nationality of a person, although you didn't mention it, the gender, which is important because if I'm hiring a female Saudi, I get 2 expats.
Yes.
As a quota, essentially. So this is the reason why we had to sort of think about how do we use AI to be compliant, but at the same time solve the actual localized problem statements that companies are facing, which job boards don't solve.
This is true. I hadn't really considered how important localization would be from that perspective and how different it is to.
And it's just getting more and more prominent, especially. Really? Yeah. UAE has or will increase the amortization target. Saudi has already. There are some departments, functions in an organization in Saudi that is 100% Sauditized. Really? HR 100%. You can't even have expats.
Wow, I did not know that whatsoever. Yeah, it's one of the things that struck me here initially when putting together a CV a couple of years ago was this sort of insistence on having a picture of you as well, which I found so incredibly strange. Yeah. It's the last thing in the world that you do, coming from an Irish context at least. Can we talk about, so on the B2B side of things then, you have a really diverse array of clients and companies that you work with. Do you work with any and all companies? Is there a particular industry that you work more so with than others?
I can probably tell you what we don't do. It's probably easier.
That's helpful.
Faster. We don't focus on roles where the talent is not typically online or applying through an online channel. Mm-hmm. That typically tends to be labor market or labor blue collar type of roles. Yeah. We also don't do C-level type of roles. Why? I don't think I've ever met a CEO that ever applied to a role.
Unlikely you're going to apply via Indeed or something like that and end up as...
It's a network play always and very high touch. Those two sort of end of the spectrum we don't do. Everything else in between we can do. And then from a customer perspective or type of industries we focus, it's kind of evolved as the product matured. In the early days of the B2B product and the platform, because of lack of certain features that needed time, we were more towards the SMB side.
Yep.
Once we got integrations with systems such as SAP, Oracle, and others in place, that's when we knew we could push the boundary a bit higher up into the market and go towards mid-market and enterprises. So it was an evolution, but now what we are focusing on is essentially companies that are probably mid-market and up. But the more important aspect is the volume of hire that you do per year. You could be, for example, a startup or an SMB that are growing like crazy, which is fine. Then I think it will be fit to use Qureos. And that sort of threshold that we put is at least 15 open roles per year, because that's where you're really going to see a bang for the buck and true ROI from this. Whether that comes from time compressed of hiring or whether that's coming from recruitment costs, you're going to start to see the ROI from investing in a platform like this. Otherwise, you can do a lot of it with one person.
Yeah, what are those USPs when you're pitching to prospective clients? Is it obviously, first of all, that you'll hire a great person who's fit for the role, but is it like that compression in terms of timelines or all of these things that, resonate?
It depends who you speak to, but if you speak with the head of hiring or talent acquisition, HR.
Yeah, who are you going after actually, out of curiosity?
It's always HR.
Always HR.
Some industries or some type of companies, it could be the head of the business.
Yeah.
It could be engineering, or if it's a construction type of industry, then there is a project side because they win projects and they need to staff them up. But usually it's HR. So if you speak with the head of, then recruitment costs is obviously a big thing in addition to the time to hire.
Yeah.
But if you speak with the recruiters, talent acquisition teams, it's always the time and the burden and workload that is on their side and confidence. How do I know that I'm able to shortlist to the 2, 3, 4, 5 people to the hiring manager so that I don't have to go back and forth? And the biggest killer of time in hiring is actually not the process, is the reset. Because the hiring manager tells the recruiter, this is what I'm looking for, spends very little time explaining. Imagine if that might be a head of engineering that is looking for a Ruby on Rails engineer.
Yep.
I don't even know what that is. Imagine a recruiter knowing what that is. So that recruiter having to source candidates, screen them initially and shortlist.
There's a big knowledge gap there in the first place. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the hiring manager gets the pipeline. No, this is not the right.
That's not what I asked for.
That's not what I meant. And now you have to reset the whole thing. And then reset kills momentum a lot.
And so how does Qureos address that specific pain point then, does it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of them. So how is this addressed first in the market today without technology? Having specialized recruiters.
Yes.
They know their game.
Yep.
And now think of Iris now having that specialization across all domains. So if, for example, I'll give you an example. We had a customer, forgot the role right now, but there was a title that they were looking for a particular job. And it turned out that within that, they were saying there are 3 types of specialization. Iris said, no, there's actually 11. They didn't even know that themselves. So when we mapped it up, okay, we're actually looking for this. So we changed the title and we saw a completely different type of people applying. So we had to reset once because we listened to the customer. But then when they wanted to listen to our recommendations and they were like, okay, let's change, then just changing the title was a game changer for that particular job. And that's because Iris knows and AI is way more specialized in many of these domains.
What does the business model actually look like then? How do you get paid?
So we essentially have 2 type of offerings. We have the platform offerings, and think of this as a subscription, usage base.
Yep.
And this is for companies that have an internal team that they want to tech enable and let them use the platform. This can integrate with any system, but also integrates with all the sourcing channels globally. We integrate with over 2,400 sourcing channels globally. And then on the other side, you have what we call managed services. It's essentially for the type of companies or employers that are looking for an outcome with or without a guarantee. So there's 2 options here. If you want to hire for a particular role, but you don't want to put in the effort. So think of this as you're driving the car, we're the passenger next to you. So you pay for one job and you want to get as an outcome pre-interviewed candidates. We won't guarantee that you will hire from this role. You could hire 1, multiple, or none. We don't give you the guarantee, but we do that work as a service. The other aspect is where you actually want to get an outcome and a guarantee. Now we are the driver and you're the passenger in a car. And that means we will charge you per placed candidate. This is the traditional recruitment agency style. This is more, both of these is for different type of customers. So if you are, let's say, customer service manager, you need 20 customer service agents per month, random example. That's one job. Then it's perfect to take the one that I just want pre-interviewed candidates. Give me a free-flowing pipeline. That's a perfect job or solution for that. You might not need a whole subscription for that.
Yeah.
The other one could be tricky roles, could be confidential roles, or could be companies that don't have a team at all and it's a founder or absent a team structure essentially. Then it makes sense to do that as a service.
Where's the margin better, on the platform or on the managed service?
Margin wise is better on the platform. Ticket size wise is better on the managed service.
What's the revenue mix at the moment?
It's about 65-35, leaning towards 60-40 soon on the platform side.
Thank you for answering that. Well soon done. That's great. Do you have any interesting insights? Obviously, considering you're sitting on a lot of data as far as hiring trends, particular roles. We've seen a massive uptick in AI-oriented roles over the course of the last 12 to 18 months.
Although there's a lot about AI in this market, market being the whole region here, the adoption of AI, the intention of adopting AI is very high. The actuality of it is very low. I'm not talking on the HR side of things, a lot more. And the readiness to adopt it is extremely low.
Really?
Very low in this part of the world. And we have customers in US. Yeah. So I have the benchmark of US versus
this
region.
Comparison.
And the language of just speaking about AI with HR there is a completely different volume. They understand, you can say inference to a person from HR in US. HR here wouldn't even understand what the word means. It's a huge difference. And I think there's a lag of the market from an HR department perspective, actually, or the companies themselves making sure that their team, one, understands that, I'm speaking from a talent acquisition perspective, they are not at risk, but they need to change. So that's one. The second is talent acquisition will change. Whether we want it or not, it's going to change.
Yep.
How that change is going to look like is that talent acquisition, recruiters and so on are essentially transitioning from being task-oriented and activity-based, making sure that they do this huge list of things on a daily basis per job, for example, to becoming relationship builders, very much like sales. What's the difference between a sales rep and a talent acquisition and moving forward? As sales, you sell a product, a solution, a service. As a talent acquisition, you sell the company. But you're selling to a candidate to join, or you're selling to a client to pay you, but it's the same job.
Everyone's an SDR really. I think investors are to a certain extent as well. There's an element of outbound, inbound.
But talent acquisition had very little time of doing this before by virtue of them being burdened so much. And I don't see many companies actually helping their team members in that transition to first give them the confidence that they are not. And we see that in the sales cycle as well. If we go bottoms up, there's a much higher risk of being blocked.
Of course.
If we go top down, then we need to make sure that we get the sponsorship from the team. So this is quite evident. So it's also one of the reasons why, for example, we have a customer success team that actually acts as a not only consultant but as a pal to the recruiters that needs to learn. And we see that it takes approximately on average an engaged customer that onboards, it takes them about 2 to 3 months, and then we kind of can let go afterwards. Of course, the CS team is still there, but there is that market transition that needs to happen at scale. I mean, I would love to be able to do it single-handedly, but this is a responsibility of many of the companies. And there is a huge gap that I can see in the market.
I'd love to talk about job displacement then, maybe from a couple of different angles. First of all, are you a job displacement vehicle from a recruitment perspective? Like ultimately, will there need to be less recruiters? Are you, phasing out maybe a layer that currently exists in order for Qureos to be successful? Does that necessitate the partial erasure of a particular layer?
No, and we never have that intention. The simple answer is no. However, and this goes beyond Qureos, beyond talent acquisition or HR, a lot of people are going to be displaced if you are a lagger. If you don't power yourself with the knowledge on how to be able to do what you did at scale without scaling with a team, but doing it with tech, with AI and different tools even, somebody else is going to get ahead of you. And so the actual displacement is that somebody else that is able to do your job and his job and 3 other jobs at the same time. So I'm a firm believer of that. But if you become a very enabled in what you do with the help of tools as well, obviously there's going to be a need of you in any type of role, be it in HR or talent acquisition. Because in the end, I still see the talent acquisition, if we double down on that, or sales, is quite similar. It's very relationship based.
Yep.
And we see that with AI interviews. We have about 9% or so of all AI interviews that is happening on the platform that the candidate still wants to speak with the human. And so as a talent acquisition, become really good at that.
Yep.
We got good at the things that AI is at least not accepted within yet. So displacement can be reduced, but for those that are not taking that lead, unfortunately, that is inevitable.
If hiring slows down globally, which suggestion is that this is going to happen in certain roles, not in everything, is that a good thing for you? Does that have an adverse effect? Do you become more important in that reality? Like if hiring slows down, there's greater competition for roles, does Qureos play a more important outsized role in that reality? Or if there's less people being hired, is that, a danger?
I mean, it depends on how big of a downturn that is.
It's true. It's true. Look, this is all speculation in many respects, but I'm trying to project,
So I think we have a little bit of a wedge here because, one, we are not geo-specific.
This is something I wanted to ask about as well, actually. So was the ambition always, we can build a global company from here? We don't have to be constrained to...
No, we even today, we focus on this region.
Yes.
So, but technology-wise, we're not restricted.
Yeah.
It works globally because we always had to have a deep reach into the market from a talent perspective.
Yes.
So hence why it's been global from that side.
It's one of the unique things about the market here as well, isn't it? The extent to which you're always bringing in talent from abroad.
It's always an import. And the domestic versus import distribution is quite similar. Depends on the industry. But then when you look at a downturn from a hiring perspective, I don't believe that there will be a time when there's not going to be a hiring for anyone.
Yeah.
And because we are so broad in terms of industry, if some goes down, other goes up. So we can be nimble in that sense. So now when you take geo as a flexibility and industry as a flexibility, I'm not that concerned about this. We just have to make sure that we see the patterns and we can forecast it and be nimble and fast enough.
What jobs go first?
I don't want to say creativity per se, but things that is very input oriented.
Yep.
And just, you just have to knock buttons.
Yep.
Done. Content, you can create next to 90% ready content in no time with AI, and it's getting ridiculously good now.
Ridiculously good, yeah.
And if you're really good at prompting as well, you get very, very close to amazing. Those are essentially all the sort of heavy administrative task-oriented type of jobs are just going to be much, much better with AI, much faster. Creativity, this is where, and relationship, and this is where you need a human.
How important is AI literacy as it pertains to the job market at the moment? Is that something that talent acquisition specialists are screening for?
If you have the intent and the willingness, where do you start? And if you don't come from a tech background, and I've seen people, I don't want to mention specifics here, that has a difficult time to know how to share a screen on Google Meet.
I've met a couple of them myself. Yeah.
So if we talk about that level, how would you, if you're that person now, know where to start to become AI literate? So I think they know, I don't even think they understand what AI can do in the first place. So it's more, it's first a realization for them, for them to understand what it really is. My mom is one of them. She knows ChatGPT as in terms of Google search.
Yes.
Easier. That's it. And she can speak with any language much easier. And that's where it stops.
Google search and no ads. Well, had no ads.
So I think the first step that needs to be done is not just do they need to become literate, is do they even understand what they need to be literate in first? Then comes the step, how do I get there? And that was back to what I meant earlier, which is the knowledge gap and the adoption. The intention to adopt is there, but it's not happening at the pace of how fast the market is and the technology is moving now.
Ultimately, the best talent will find a way to adapt. It's kind of the long and the short of it. Absolutely. If you have the intent, you'll figure it out one way or another.
And those are going to be the ones that are not going to be, they're probably going to move from one role to another, but they're not going to be displaced. And the others are going to be displaced and try to figure out another type of job that they can do.
$5 million seed round. What are you going to do with all that money?
Sales, GTM, pretty much most of it, and product, essentially. So we are at the point right now where we definitely have, I'd say, early product market fit. And I usually look at it as you first need to have a founder fit, and then product market fit, and then you need to find a channel market fit, essentially. One or multiple to really double down on. And that's essentially the next phase of the company, and find a channel market fit, make sure that the fundamental metrics are in place, And once you have that component ready,
Yeah.
then it's just about putting more fuel into the fire.
What's your most successful channel at the moment, actually, out of interest?
SEO.
From an acquisition? Really?
Inbound, yeah.
SEO isn't dead.
No, I mean, and I don't think it will be. You just have to adapt it. SEO and content has been the predominant channel that we've done that leads to inbound for us.
Have you done much on the geo side of things with regard to optimizing?
Unintentionally.
Really?
So majority, I don't have it's so hard to track.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of leads when I'm on a lot of customer calls, and a lot of leads are like, yeah, how did you find about us? I asked ChatGPT and you were in the top 3. I didn't even know that, but okay.
Great, yeah.
So unintentionally, and I think this is because of all of the programmatic SEO that we ingested, that AI learned through that, and we do a lot of content, but in an automated way, and we've done it over the past few years. So that has been the predominant channel. But obviously, you won't be able to scale a business only with that channel. Yeah. So we need to mature and figure out: do we do a complementary channel, or can we actually just double down on this? The last channel that I will probably go to is performance marketing.
Fair. Founder-led sales, still very much you're still on sales calls.
Yeah, I enjoy it as well. I like it. Founder-led sales, but of course now it's scaling up the team. We've been 1 or 2 man band from a sales perspective up to date. This is the first time kind of where we are really scaling up the sales team from single digit to double digit team size, and it's a transition. I've done it before, but it takes a little bit of time to get stability in, get everybody comfortable, and then making sure that everything else in the engine works as well. We need to have 10x more inbound leads now, and then 10x more MQLs and SQLs. So it's a lot of components that need to come into the right line for this to work, but it's an exciting phase for us right now.
Okay, amazing. Well, look, Alex, that's all the questions that I have for you, and I think we're perfectly on time. So we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for coming on.
Really enjoyed this convo.
Cheers. Awesome. That's good.
Awesome.